As Walter said, I'm Mark Richardson. I'm the head of sustainable innovation at Troup, Bywaters and Anders. Troup, Bywaters and Anders is a engineering partnership. We work as consultants to the building industry across multiple sectors. And my passion is around everything to do with sustainability. So everything from energy to carbon and healthy buildings, which is why I'm with you all today to speak on this topic. So I think I was speaking with Walter just before the presentation about this today. In the last few months, since we're starting to get back to the office post-COVID, the dialogue I'm having with a lot of people in the real estate industry around sustainability has completely changed to the conversations I was having 1-2 years ago. It's almost like we've seen a sustainability epiphany in the last few years. We've seen a whole range of legislation, building codes, best practice guidance, industry leaders setting up projects that are truly sustainable, which is fantastic. And we've also seen investors looking to invest in sustainable assets, ones that comply with, say, net zero carbon goals or provide health and well-being benefits to the people within buildings. And this in part, of course, is set by the tenants as well. So the tenants are looking to occupy spaces that have a significant range of holistic sustainability benefits. Working with a lot of blue chip tenants recently, we're really noticing that things like outstanding levels of, say, BREEAM performance, which is a UK sustainability measurement tool similar to LEED, are becoming mandatory. But in conjunction with this, we're also seeing requirements around certification tools such as the WELL tool, which looks at healthy buildings, and RESET, which looks at air quality. All these tenants are looking at these now, putting them into their tenant requirement documentation. So this is driving industry forward, which is great news for sustainability and great news for improving the quality of the buildings we all live, work, and play in. So I just, as I mentioned, sustainability it's multi-pronged, but two big elements are around energy and carbon efficiency and health and well-being. So I just want to take a high-level snapshot of what this means. So most people are very familiar with the concept of an efficient building. So we improve the building envelope, we enable natural ventilation, we use highly efficient mechanical plant to serve the loads within that building. And we're left with a very energy efficient building. But if you just indulge me for a few moments, if we take that to the ultimate as a thought experiment, we would make the facade highly efficient. So we would reduce the window size to 0. We would make the walls very thick. We would remove all the mechanical plant because it was consuming energy, and would be left with a cave. So we wouldn't be left with a particularly good building or a particularly useful building. It would keep the weather out for sure, but it wouldn't be very usable. So this is the next concept I want to bring in. So alongside efficiency, we need to have effective buildings. So an effective building is a building that enables the people within the building to perform at their best. And this is a concept that really clicks for me around the healthy building movement and the well-being movement within buildings. So we need to enable people within these buildings to perform at their best, for the building to be effective and for the building to be useful. So To be a high-performing building, it needs to be both highly energy efficient and a highly effective building. So efficiency and effectiveness are the concepts we need to get right. So this paves the way for us to talk about healthy buildings in the context of things like return on investment or soft returns on investment. Things like what value do we get out of a building? So this is how to engage with either the people who are developing buildings, constructing buildings, and also the people that ultimately occupy buildings. Because in very, very simple terms, why do we build and occupy healthy buildings? So I like to distill this down to a very simple phrase. It comes to peace of mind. When we're in a healthy building, when we know that building is healthy, we have peace of mind when we're in the building. We're relaxed, our well-being is better, we're happier. And ultimately, this can lead to improved productivity, lower absenteeism, etc. Okay, so that's what we want. I'll just recap very, very quickly on the history of the healthy building movement to date. So back in the 1980s, the term sick building syndrome was coined, and it refers to a condition where people suffer from symptoms of illness or become infected with chronic disease from the building in which they work or reside. So this is what some people call the new building smell, that smell of paints, that smell of glues when you walk into a building, which are volatile organic compounds. Some of them are highly toxic and some of them can kill you, such as formaldehyde. But generally, we work to design those out. So, but this was in the 80s, this was people first started to scientifically investigate the link between these chemicals and health. Then if we move forward 20, 30 years, this science was very, very slow to evolve. But then people started to conduct more scientific experiments into the details of not necessarily illness, but of performance. And several studies, there's a whole range of studies. The Harvard study is a very good one, that have identified a 2% to 10% improvement in people's performance when they're in a healthy building. So a building with low volatile organic compounds, a building with good fresh air, a building with good light, a building with good acoustics. And also there'll be 1 to 2 less days of absenteeism per year per person. So this is great news. If people can perform better with simple tweaks to building controls, such as increased ventilation, this is surely an easy win to improve our buildings. Then if we look in the last 10 years, before moving back to London, I was living out in China, and in 2011, the air quality in China became so bad, it was coined as the air apocalypse. And then in 2017, India, a lot of the urban centers in India, again had air pollution so bad that it was not only visible in the sky in the cities, it was literally scary to go outside. And there was almost like a red fog that would sweep across the cities in the morning. And it was very scary to be in these cities. And people started to ask the question, is the building I'm in sufficiently protecting me from the outdoor environment? And both in China and India, this has led to a lot of innovation, a lot of technology around enabling buildings to protect their occupants. And to bring us up to the present day, in 2020, I think we're all aware that we are living through a pandemic at the moment, and this has increased awareness again that the buildings we're in can help spread pathogens, can help spread viruses when we're in them through the mechanical systems or the lack of mechanical systems. So over the last 40 years, the industry's gradually been building this momentum towards healthy buildings and what this means. So I believe now we're at a stage where we have the science to understand the problems and understand the benefits. We have the technology to solve the problems, and we have the market interest to deliver the problems. So healthy buildings hopefully should be with us because they affect us all. So it's possibly good news for our health and well-being. And this was borne out by work by the US GBC, the US Green Building Council, that identified a number of very high-level metrics, such as 84% of people prefer to work for an organization that has a strong mission with positive values. This would relate to healthy building in that when tenants occupy a building that is of higher quality, it's a very visible indication of what that company believes in. So it reinforces corporate culture. And 79% of people would would choose a job that was based in a sustainably certified building over one that wasn't. I have seen some feedback from the Edge building in Amsterdam that really hit this statistic home, to the point that people wanted to join a company just so they could work in that building, which is, fantastic news. And when people are in sustainably certified buildings, they generally have 15% more job satisfaction than those that don't, which is really positive as well. And 85% of people believed that natural light would boost their performance. So again, we're seeing the science come through, and again, we're seeing that this reinforce what we're doing. Okay. So I just want to share some slides now. I think you've probably seen enough of me today anyway. So the graph on the right is the...
Mark, can you put him on presenter mode? Yes, that looks way better. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay. So the graph on the right shows the approximate overhead breakdown for a tenant occupier. And we'd expect to see 60 to 65% of that to be salary costs, 15 to 20% to be on rent or recouping construction costs, and only 1 to 2% being on energy costs, and then some other costs related to business that I haven't identified here. And now let's get back to the fact that people are the heart of our organizations. In healthy buildings, people's productivity increases by at least 2%. Cost uplifts for developing both healthy and energy efficient buildings to a reasonable level are around 6 to 7%. So if we compute the math here, we see that paybacks related to energy initiatives are in the region of 5 to 10 years, with a 10-year internal rate of return of 10 to 15%. But if we consider the health-related paybacks, so those that impact salary costs, the big chunk of the graph, not energy costs, we see paybacks in the region of 2 to 3 years, with a 10-year internal rate of return of 30 to 40%. So that's great news for tenants. And it's great news for building developers and operators who can enable their tenants to perform better in the spaces. So they're improving their value proposition. So this is always a good graph, especially when you're presenting first thing in the morning, because the graph on the right shows the typical carbon dioxide concentration in a 10-person meeting room. So this would be the Monday morning meeting when everybody sits down after a refreshing weekend, and you sit in the room for an hour, and very, very soon people are starting to fall asleep, people are drifting off, people are not concentrating. And this is very observable, and it's to do with the carbon dioxide concentration. When carbon dioxide levels exceed 1,500 parts per million, the cognitive performance of the people in that space drops by 40 to 50%, which is alarming, as in these meetings, often key decisions are being made. So we see from the graph on the right, this has a typical air supply rate for a meeting room that we'd see in a grade A office, that we would be exceeding that threshold of carbon dioxide that negatively affects our cognitive performance within 20 minutes. So this is something we can get right through design and through operation. We can challenge the ventilation rates. This is also when people talk about things like COVID-19 protection, increasing ventilation rates is one of the first steps to do that. Okay. But of course, part of this conference is about smart technology. So yes, we can increase the ventilation rate, but how do we know how much to increase it by? So we need to put in a reasonable level of metering and monitoring within the space. So the first thing we want to measure is the outdoor air through our fresh air intake. So number one on this graph here. We then want to monitor the air quality after the filtration systems for the fresh air. So this gives us an understanding of how effective our mechanical servicing solutions are at removing particulate pollution and VOC pollution from the outdoor air. And finally, we want to measure the air that people are breathing within the occupied zone. So we actually know exactly what people are breathing. And of course, technology is changing all the time, and we can measure a whole range of air quality parameters now to a reasonable level of accuracy. However, I think when we start to put a lot of monitors around the space, we can easily, on a building, have one monitor for every 200 square meters or 2,000 square feet. So the costs can rise very quickly. So I believe it's worth just limiting what we measure to 5 key parameters, which is PM 2.5 or particulates, total volatile organic compounds, or carbon dioxide, and temperature and humidity. And these 5 metrics give us a reasonable understanding of the pollutants within a space, particularly when we measure at multiple points. But then there's no point in measuring it if we don't report it. So we need to bring this data to a central building data collection point, which can be accessed on a building by building level. But more powerful is to bring that to the cloud, where we can use platforms to review data. We can use, I'll show you an example of what you might see. So this would have been this is an example on the graph on the right of a graph that's looking at PM 2.5 pollution. And this would be in a central platform, so we could drill down into a specific building within a portfolio and a specific space within that building, and we could choose our historical time frame. We can even compare, if we wanted to, performance this year to performance last year. But what importantly we are seeing here is we have the outdoor level, which is very bad on this particular day. Then we have the indoor level, which is acceptable. So we know that we have taken a very dangerous outdoor air, we have filtered that to remove 83% of the particulate pollutions down to a level that is acceptable. So when I'm sat in the building, I have peace of mind and confidence that the indoor air quality is safe and the building is protecting me from the poor outdoor air. And it is this viewing of the data and the public accessing of the data that is necessary to create the peace of mind and to realize the value of delivering healthy environments. If the people in the building cannot understand their environment is healthy, they won't get the associated peace of mind and well-being benefits from that. So we need to communicate this effectively to the people. Okay. So this, I'm not going to talk too much about this today because I want to leave a few minutes for questions, but this is just a summary of the different types of solutions that you can put into a space to improve your air quality. So if you were to measure your air quality and there were problems with the air quality, we have a range of options available to us to improve that air quality. The simplest one could be opening the windows and increasing natural ventilation, which would lower our CO2 levels, lower our VOC levels, help to purge viruses and bacteria from the space. So that is a very quick, easy win. And I'll just labor this point slightly as in recent years, there was a trend to not have operable windows in buildings, particularly in city centres such as London. We urgently need to reverse this trend because not only does it give us the ability to improve air quality, it also gives us the ability to omit mechanical cooling in the summer months and save a lot of energy. And then beyond natural ventilation, there's various different types of filtration from media through to newer technologies such as bipolar ionization, which can address specific elements of air quality issues within your building. So I'm going to leave the slides for now and get back to the presentation. Okay, so I have 5 minutes now. If anybody has any questions, I'll happily take them.
Hey Mark, yeah, I'm also back on the stage. Well, amazing to hear your insights. How many building developers are you seeing adapting this right now?
In terms of the healthy buildings, it really does depend on where you sit in the world. As I mentioned that China and India have very, very poor air quality, so we're seeing all developers take it seriously in those locations. In London, it is a little slower at the moment, I would say.
How come? Are we not going back to the office yet, or is it not? What is it? Do you think?
I think it's partly to do with the history of air quality is not being, or health and well-being is not traditionally been as a bigger driver for buildings here. And it's only now that tenants are starting to put in the requirements in their tenant requirements that developers are starting to move down this road. Generally, of course, there's leaders in the market that are doing very well here, and they realize that they have a differentiated product, so very well placed. But generally, as a market, real estate is very, very slow to react anyway.
So what is it do you think can be the differentiator in the end? Because the front runners, they will do it, but how do they need to maybe also tell this to their tenants that it is way better for them?
For me, it's all about the real-time monitoring of any building system, be it health and well-being, be it access, security. That information needs to be communicated in real time, effectively to the people in the building.
Yeah. So people will start feeling what is happening in the building.
Yeah. It's improving the landlord-tenant communication You know, the smart tools that enable that communication to be strengthened and that relationship to strengthen ultimately. Developers should see a big win from that if they act quickly, and then obviously a big loss if they don't act, because everybody else will be doing it. So
Yeah.
you know, it's I think we're at a tipping point now where this can happen.
Do you see also something happening in the valuation of buildings when they are more smart, more healthy?
It's quite a tough one to answer. There's lots of factors that go into how much a building's worth, you know, and the direct correlation between value or potential rent is hard to make a call on, and I haven't seen a conclusive study that has highlighted this.
Okay. Well, then maybe we should start working on that as well, because I think when buildings are more value to to banks, to investors, but also to the tenants, because they want to be in a healthy place, then that could maybe speeden up also the process.
Yeah, you know, I think it feels right. It feels like it should be more attractive as a place to lease. So it feels like it should be a good thing, and I think everyone understands this. But it's that hard evidence is hard to find.
Well, Mark, thank you very much for your 30 minutes on Global PropTech Online. I hope to see you back soon, and enjoy your day in the UK.
Thank you, Walter. Have a good day as well.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay.